Okay, now we're going to do the scatter chart within Vizrt Artist 4. The scatter chart is found within the built-ins tab, the geometry plugins, and the visual data tools. And this is a way that we can create a scatter chart. It's a little bit different than the other charts that we've created so far, and that we'll have to set it up a little bit different. To begin, we brought our scatter chart plugin in here. So for this to work, I know I need another element here. So I'm going to go into my built-ins, into my geometry plugins, and within the default, I'm just going to use or select a 3D geometry here to use as kind of one of our markers or value points within the scatter chart itself. If you want, you can also put a material on it. So we'll go through and just find a color that we can use here, just a material within your M tab here. Anything will do, just so we'll be able to see it. And I'm going to go ahead and just rename this Proto for whatever, short, Proto, because we're going to need this within the scatter chart. And what we need next is also our labels. So we're going to go back into our built-ins, into the container plugins, down to the visual data tools folder, and we're going to take this data storage and drag it onto our scatter chart plugin. We're going to click on our data storage first, and we're going to work with this key data 1. So I know that you can work with 3 value points, X, Y, and Z within this scatter chart. So we're going to call this one data X. I'm going to change this shared memory to distributed for a moment. And then down here, we need to create some data points for data X. So we're just going to spread this out. Let's say 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, something like that. Now we're going to go back into our scatter chart here. We're going to turn our shared memory to distributed. We're going to make sure we have data X here. This data X should equal the data label, data X in there. We have our data delimiter here, which should equal up. And down here within the scatter chart, farther down within the plugin editor, we have this container. Now right now we have our sphere hidden, so we can take this and drag it into this container here. And you can see when we do that, it scatters these spheres that we have across our data X. So here's 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, the way that we laid it out within our data storage label here. So before we come back in here and start to make our Y values, what you can do is just scale this down a little bit if you think it's a little bit too big. Next time we go in there and adjust our values here, it will readjust. So now we're going to add our key data Y, and since we want some points on our Y here, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to create our key data and call it data Y. Now we just need some variables. So let's make that one 10. We'll do this one 50, 100. And you can see when we are typing in the number here how the spheres are adjusting according to the numbers that we're typing in. So here's our X values here, and here's our Y values here. Now if you wanted to go further, we also have a key data for Z. So you could type in data Z or give it another name for the Z data and then do the same thing. So if we wanted to throw this first one way back in Z space, you could do that, or keep each one where they are. So depending if you want to distribute these on the Z, you can do that. A couple other settings within the scatter chart itself. Again, we have our data X fit, data Y fit, data Z fit, so we can set our constraint proportions for that depending how much data we are sending. So farther down within the plugin, you have a data X size, which you can turn on and off. So right now you can see you turn the data X size off. It just flattens these spheres. Same things for the data Y size, and then the data Z as well. It would just flatten each one of these. There's an animate position here, which is set to none by default. If you turn that on, it gives us the Y selection here, and then you can come down to the bottom of the plugin here, and there is a total animation length, which you can increase to animate this scatter chart on if you want. So the next scatter chart tutorial will show you how to import data from Excel to populate this scatter chart using the data that you saved within an Excel sheet.